All right, let's talk about the Rams' secondary receivers, the guys who aren't Cooper Kupp, because obviously Cooper Kupp gets all the attention. I made a whole video breaking down how I think the Bengals match up against him. I actually think they match up all right against him, but let's talk about the receiving core as a whole now. Let's start off with a play like this. So let's talk about how, them against San Francisco, and what we're going to see is it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and this is a lot of what the Rams like to do, and this is how you can hurt the Bengals is just with these zone busters. It makes sense. The Bengals play a lot of zone, so run concept's designed to beat zone. It's not too difficult. You have your 2 receivers who are closest to the line of scrimmage, who are going to run routes over the middle. You then have a 3rd receiver, Brandon Ayuk, who's going to run a route towards the outside and try and gain some yards. Watch how right when this play begins, Garoppolo sees it, and you see Ayuk is wide open in the flat area right there. So you have an opportunity to gain some yards. Garoppolo is going to hit Ayuk here, and as you see, they gain some yards. It's not an explosive play. You're not often going to get explosive plays on plays like this, but you can at least move the ball down the field methodically, and that might be what the Rams attempt to do here, especially as I think it could be a pretty low-scoring game, so doing that is far from the worst thing in the world. You also have something like this where what's going to happen on this play is that it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and again, you see how this concept can work. You're basically overloading the offense's right, which is closer to the bottom of the screen. You're overloading that area of the field. Cincinnati players are basically linebackers are going to have to run all the way over and try and cover everyone. As you see, Garoppolo is going to fake a handoff, and really it's the flat that he's going to throw to. There's pretty good pressure off the edge, with the unblocked man. I think this is the correct read, though, anyways, so even with the less time, I think it's still fine by Garoppolo to make this move. As you see, Garoppolo is going to throw that, underneath play. You're not getting a ton of yards here, but you did get the first down right there. So, again, methodically moving down the field. It's not the ideal offense, but it's an offense that can work, so that's, I think, something very fascinating, and we could see a lot of that in this upcoming Super Bowl. One last play to talk about before we get over to the other side of the ball and the Rams offense itself, instead of just the Bengals defense, is something like this, where it's going to actually be a 3-man rush, which we saw a lot of in the AFC Championship game. The Bengals do this, where you basically make the windows smaller, but you have Brandon Ayuk running over the middle, and watch what happens. Look, Garoppolo takes a snap, and you have this window right now, where if you can time this stuff well, it can work. Garoppolo does make this throw, and Ayuk's able to make the catch and pick up a decent gain right there. So that's kind of how these zone coverage plays can work, and that's the advantage that, or not advantage, but that's the way to beat this Bengals defense, which can be pretty effective, is you can run stuff like that. Although the bright spot is you're not giving up too many 50-yard plays in this sequence, right? The ways you're beating them are methodically moving down the field, where eventually mistakes will happen. Let's go over to this chart now, because I find this stuff very fascinating. So these are the 4 leading receivers for the Rams and how they match up versus man coverage and how they match up versus zone coverage. So I used 2 different stats: their PFF grades versus man, and then their yards per route ran versus man, and then obviously did the same thing for zone. So you see Cooper Kupp at the top, who I'm not talking about too much in this video because I already broke it down a lot, but you can see, does a lot better versus man. You see Odell Beckham Jr. does not quite as dramatically better because very few can get 4.64 yards per route ran against any coverage, but still, a very good 1.92 yards per route ran versus man, and a still very respectable 1.5 yards per route ran versus zone. The flip side, though, is that Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson's yards per route ran go up versus zone. Higbee's PFF grade's about the same, so it's likely a scheme reason he's getting the ball more there. But Van Jefferson is actually, his PFF grade's better versus zone, and his statistics are significantly better versus zone. So again, kind of scheme and talent probably shifts him in that direction. So I find that interesting. Although one thing we have to talk about with Tyler Higbee is the unfortunate news around his injury. Here's the headline from ESPN. MCL sprain puts Los Angeles Rams tight end Tyler Higbee's status for Super Bowl in question. So he hasn't been ruled out. That's good. He could potentially play, and I imagine if he physically can get in there for some snaps, he'll want to be, because it's the Super Bowl. This is what guys dream of. He'll want to see if he can get in there to some degree. But now let's go over here and talk about Kendall Blanton, who we have not seen a ton of, but let's look at his splits as well versus zone and man, because this is interesting. You have his PFF grade versus man is not good, 44.1. Yards per route ran versus man is basically 0. He's basically, they don't throw him the ball when it's man coverage, but when he's playing against zone, it's 82.9 PFF grade and a 1.7 yards per route ran versus zone. So he hasn't played much, but when he has played and when he has ran routes versus zone, he has gotten the ball a decent amount. So he might actually be kind of an unlikely hero in this game if Higbee can't go. And listen, it's stuff like this that is going to get him the ball. It's not like they're going to, make an effort to get him the ball, but tight ends just in this type of defense are kind of the guys you try and throw and hit. And something like this, he can find a soft spot in zone, and that's all you really have to do. Watch how right when this play begins, he's just saying, hey, this is where I should stand to get the football. This is good stuff because obviously guys like Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. and even Van Jefferson are going to get some extra attention. Stafford is going to be able to hit him, and you're able to pick up a first down there. So again, methodically moving the ball down the field, that's something that they probably will try and do, and it might actually be someone as unlikely of a hero as Kendall Blanton, who is the guy if Higbee can't go. Now, obviously, Higbee being able to go makes things better, but it goes both ways. Now, let's go over to something like this, which is kind of more of a common way you could see something happening where, we talk about gravity when it comes to zone defenses and how when you have a star, guys just naturally shift over to the star, which can allow someone else to get open. That's kind of happening here where you have, Odell Beckham Jr. is running a go route here, and you have Cooper Kupp running an out route here. It's a concept they were having success with against the Rams, and watch what's going to happen. As you see, also, I think I said against the Rams, obviously I mean for the Rams against the 49ers, but you see that the corner here is stepping in. He's paying more attention to Cooper Kupp and needs to be getting back and covering Odell, but he's not. Watch, Stafford sees it. He's able to get the ball there quickly, even with a safety making a pretty good break on it, and Odell is able to make the catch and pick up a big gain there. So Cooper Kupp is going to get some extra attention, and I think this could be, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we see Odell with another 100-yard day. I think stuff like this could happen. I do think that we will see some tight ends getting the football. I think that'll happen. I think that we will see some Van Jefferson catches. I think that these, other receivers are going to be getting the football, and also, of course, Cooper Kupp is going to be getting the football because he's Cooper Kupp. You want to use him if possible. So I do think that there's a lot to like about these Rams secondary receivers, and adding Odell certainly added a lot to this team. So all right, moving over to the final chart now. This is just, how I felt about at the ending of each of these preview videos I made. So if any of those numbers seem odd to you or interesting, check out the videos on this channel where I talked about that stuff. But for the Rams secondary receivers, I'm giving a +2 to the Rams. Not too high. This is, the max I could give is +5. Only giving a slight upgrade to the Rams because I do think the Bengals can cover this stuff pretty well. But I think that the Rams have the matchup in their favor with these guys who can come in and make plays because you have Odell who can, beat man or zone. So even if you want to play man and double team Cooper Kupp, that's not going to work because you have Van Jefferson and even, again, I think Higbee is a really good player and you want him in there, but even Kendall Blanton has shown he can be an option in this type of stuff. The Bengals are good. The Bengals will cover this to some degree, but we saw Mike White be able to light up this Bengals defense largely due to hitting secondary receivers. That could be something that we see from Stafford. He might not be Mike White caliber, but maybe he can still do decent. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.